internet audiences from around the world, and especially to our featured guests this evening, Chiamaka Enyi-Amadi, Siobhán Ní Dhomhnaill, and Karthika Naïr. I'm delighted to be able to introduce you this evening. My name is Paul Casey. I'm the director of O'Vale and the Winter Warmer Festival, and thrilled to be able to produce our first online edition this year and to be introducing the opening set. I'd like to briefly thank our sponsors before we get underway, as we have fest to indulge in over the next 4 days, which wouldn't be possible. Much of our vital support we receive is via small donations from members of the public, and our online viewers continue to contribute during our monthly sessions, so we're very grateful for that. Primary funding for this festival is thanks to our official sponsors and festival partners. Míle buíochas agaibh. Thank you a million times for helping to make this event possible. The Arts Council of Ireland, the Cork City Council, Forest na Gaeilge, Dunn Stores, Forum Publications, Columkill Arc Publications, Cork City Libraries, Poetry Ireland, Paradiso, the Long Valley, and the University College Cork School of English and Digital Humanities. So I'm going to be introducing our guests in order this evening. First of all, I'm going to be introducing Chiamaka Enyi-Amadi, who is a Lagos-born, Galway-bred and Dublin-based writer, editor, performer, and arts facilitator. Chiamaka has been publishing and performing in a variety of journals and venues over recent years, including Poetry International, Poetry Ireland Review, RTÉ Poetry Programme, IMMA Magazine, Architecture Ireland, the Irish Times, among others. She co-edited Writing Home, the New Irish Poets, with Pat Boran from Dedalus Press. And you can find out more about Chiamaka on Instagram at Chiamaka Enyi-Amadi and Twitter at Ahmadi Enyi. So I'd please like to welcome now Chiamaka Enyi-Amadi.
Thank you so much, Paul, for that wonderful introduction. I'm delighted to be here, to be sharing this platform with the wonderful poets that we have, Siobhán and Karthika. I'm really excited to hear their work also. I'll be sharing some poems with you all tonight. So I think we can proceed. So the first poem that I will be sharing is called "The Moon is a Healing Being," which has recently been published in the Irish University Review. The moon is a healing being. The moon is teaching me to heal the fear of being and not being seen, the scourge of many eyes, or worse, none at all. Lonely is living without another being next to me at all times, breathing without another body to match the rise and fall of my own chest. Some nights she surprises me, her face beaming with the satisfaction of a day well spent, caring for her own self. She tells me, just because a person has eyes doesn't mean they see you, doesn't mean they would hold your hand through all your many phases. Each night the sky is a firm silver chest cradling her head, basking in the blue of her glow, full of gratitude for her having come at last to keep it company. Bringing it laughter full to the belly. On some nights she's worse off, joy cut in half, needing to cry and go to bed early. The moon is a healing being, washing her silver hair, thankful time is on her side, longing to lie her weary head on the warm cotton chest of her pillow. Not long now till daybreak, bringing a damp cloth to her aching arms and chest. Black soap kissed the soft dimples on her lower back, shea butter massaging her skin, soothing each pore from toe to chin, cherry balm sweet on her lips. She cries, she sings. Nothing is truly fixed, not anger, not fear, not even grief. She cools her sore eyes with fresh cucumber slices, her bedtime snack. Lavender drops on trembling fingertips pressing into the nape of her neck. The base of her temples have stopped ticking. Time is still on her side as day breaks into a cold sweat. She settles into sleep, dreaming of the distant sky, knowing it will soon light up when it sees her rested smile beaming over Dublin Bay. My next poem is called A Song to Appease the Gods. The world is like a mask dancing. If you want to see it well, you do not stand in one place. An Igbo proverb, Chinua Achebe, Arrow of God, 1988. What can a child say to a god to get the attention of Chukwu the Supreme, who sends his spirit to be his own eyes in the direction of the dancing wind, to follow the sand when it is swept up by the mighty hands of the wind? The wind is celebrating. It throws the sand over the deep curve of his right shoulder, scattering the soft grains all over Igbo land, and spins around 1,000 times but does not grow weary or stumble like a man weakened after his blood is violently shaken. This child has decided not to stay. Which road will she take now? Will she follow the wind, join in its drunken dance without rain or root? Or will she swallow her weight in sand and take a different form after her sojourn in the spirit world? Who is singing? Only the spirits can hear this terrible song. Only the madman hears this wicked song. We know it is wicked from the way the madman laughs as he too dances in a shrill cackle like a hot-blooded wolf. His face is an oily mask melting, a mix of wet black sand and red palm oil. The child would not dip her soft boiled yams into the sweet stickiness of the sauce, and now she has decided to leave us. Who is singing? Who is it that will speak on my behalf? Who will go to the land of the spirits and bring my child home on the soft hurl of their back? Who has preserved the language of the old gods? Who has tuned their ears to the soft murmur of life? Is it the wind in its drunken dance? Is it the madman with his oily mask? This next poem is called Our Hands Like Rain. This failure of ours, this inability to speak your language, to hear the faint breaths, a medium too weak to carry the strained words to our flutter of ears, to leave your loneliness in the light of the living room. Everything about you is wistful and wishing to be and not to be. We are with you, wandering from the outside with no clear answers, with no mouths to ask the questions. We are a family that walk through fire and pretend not to smell the smoke clinging to our clothes, our hair, our skin, our hands like rain trying to dampen the flames. And yet we will not call it by its name. We will not call it by its name. We will not call it by its name. After the fire licked you from head to toe, left you soft and naked, did you come out smelling of smoke? Did you ask to be washed? Did your hands beg your mother for absolution? Did you look your father in the eye to say, I am suffocating? Love will restore you. Love will heal this human error, this inability to speak your language. A boy gone mad, paranoid, or traumatized, terrorized by the unknown voices that creeps into his head as he sleeps and refuses to leave at daybreak. When the cell is compromised, the virus seeps in. When the firewall breaks down, the hacker gets in, takes his tools out. But first, he burns some sage to cleanse the boy of his grip on reality, smoking out sanity through open pores. The damage is done, but it is nowhere to be seen. He says there is fire crawling beneath his skin. But the doctor checked. There were no blisters, no marks, no ticks, no scars. It is all in your head. The boy gone mad. There is nothing to be seen. He says a stranger broke into the house, tried to kill him. But there were no signs of break-in, no signs of struggle, no marks, no ticks, no scars. It is all in his mind. Boy gone mad. There is nothing to be seen. We are a family that walk through fire and pretend not to smell the smoke clinging to our clothes, our hair, our skin, our hands like rain, trying to dampen the flames. And yet we will not call it by its name. We will not call it by its name. We will not call it by its name. This next few poems that I'm going to read are from the Writing Home anthology, which I co-edited with the fantastic Pat Boran, who is the owner of Dedalus Press. Where? Home is not where you are born. Home is where all your attempts to escape cease. Naguib Mahfouz. Without knowing how or when or from where, I have stopped dreaming of escape from a country on whose ground I could settle my feet, but not my spirit. I thought my mind had betrayed me the day I woke wanting to remember each moment where I feel at home. My memory is a wool blanket, fraying at the edges, an unreliable garment barely thick enough to throw over my back, to trap time, smother it safely, keep each moment intact. And I can open my time blanket whenever I am in need of spare keys or the balm of love-soaked nostalgia. Instead, I bookmarked a New York Times article, 36 Questions That Lead to Love. Mark a Google Calendar date every month for us to brunch, sitting on a high or low olive wood stool in some high-end or backstreet cafe, in Dublin mostly, or Galway at Dawes, or Amsterdam or Belfast at Bert's. I sit anywhere, always facing you. Each time we are owed strangers, equipped with questions to connect new dots. After all, we hacked the love algorithm once before. What are the odds of us not getting sick of each other? What are the odds of getting to a place where all our attempts to escape cease? Sure, you take the piss. Keep saying this kind of carry-on will make you end it all. You'd soon dig deeper, grimace at some dormant malaise, bare your saws rather than risk losing your way. Your need for organized chaos, sneaking scoops of butter onto your tongue the moment my head is turned, and my tendency to dissect every situation, if only to keep me sane in this epic guessing game. Without knowing how or when or from where, I have stopped dreaming of escape and began wanting to remember each moment where I feel at home with you. This next poem, last but not least, is called When. My mind is weak on isolated detail. I ask that each book, each song, each supper of yours must have a story attached, whether it's the first or last, or our struggle to make memory of it. Goes in one ear, then leaks out. The other night I went digging in old drawers, reached into my memory box. I'd kept it all 14 months from the 14th day of February, the night you first cooked me dinner, sirloin steak seared in a pan of melted butter, tossed the button mushrooms to fry in clear juices, spring onion chopped, bulbs of garlic crushed, baby potatoes seasoned, both flavors, with your mother's many spices. On a cold evening, I wait for you outside the Larry station. A faded figure rushing through autumn drizzle approaches with a smile, shy, falters, both of us shielded by the inadequate roof of the bus shelter. You hand me red roses as if we'd dined before. I pull a gloved hand from my coat pocket to walk towards the house. Dinner warm in the oven, waiting to be served. My fingers stiffen from the chill. I'd kept it all. Crisp red petals, now a dark shade of brown. Stalk and flower pressed into my journal pages, together with the note you wrote in gratitude for that copy of Neruda, the gift of life that without cease I give you, once a vibrant thing, soaking up the scent held to my nostril. Let the petals lick my lips, brown on top, pink beneath. This final poem is called How. The harmony of skin on skin, of flesh meeting in hunger, in wonder, in gra, in sweat, tears, blood between my legs too soon, painting your cotton sheets crimson. While I sleep, it sips through, some old part of me steadily leaving, this time too soon. I am at a loss, I have no tool to plug this sudden drip. This time, I do my one good trick. Turn a sight of desire into a pit of despair and bury myself in shame and stained sheets. You wake and reach for me. The harmony of skin on skin, of flesh meeting in hunger, in wonder, in gra. You feel the sheets wet, my body in retreat. You spring up, grabbing towels, maneuver me half against my will, wrapping thick white towels around my waist and between my legs. I have no choice. I give in. Allow my body take center stage, announce my pain out loud. And you reach for me again. The harmony of skin on skin, my body in distress. Thank you for listening. Once again, it's been my pleasure to read as part of the Obale Festival, and I look forward to hearing the other poets and artists.
Thank you so much, Chiamaka. That was an absolutely gorgeous reading. Really, that was just captivating. I'd love to hear more about it, and I'm looking forward to our Q&A at the end of the session. But that was absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much indeed. I'm going to move on and introduce our next guest to you now. If I can just get the audio working, which I think it is. I believe it is. Yes, it is. Tá ar céad fila eile le buchas le Forest na Gaeilge, fila Currachiochaí as Listowel Writers, a bilingual poet from Listowel, County Kerry. Siobhán Ní Dhomhnaill is now living in Ballyverney, County Cork. She won the Collection of Poetry Award at Listowel Writers Week in 2019, a much sought after award in poetry, and her book At agus Iontach Bheith Beo is just out with Coisceim. Strange and Wonderful to Be Alive, I think. And Thomas McCarthy describes Siobhán's work as mature yet incredibly youthful, light-footed yet full of terrific literary skill. So I'm really looking forward to this reading. Fáilte mhór róit, Siobhán.
Good evening, so Mr. Siobhán Ní Dhomhnaill, so tá blonde a bheith I bheith new a láthair on Féile Seo and Winter Warner Festival. Sorry, I didn't think you'd hear me there. So tá glondarm a bheith láthir ag an féile iontach seo on Winter Warmer Festival, which is run by O'Vale, to share some of Mochánta live. Is full of Dhomhnaill me, so I will be reading my poems first in English, in Irish, and then the English translation will follow. I do hope that you allow yourself to be drawn into the beauty of the Irish language and try and listen and soak in our Jonga, all in Orsa Celtic. I would like to say that I feel very honoured tonight to be sharing the virtual stage with two amazing poets. I'm a very new young poet starting out, and it is a real honour to be able to share this stage, figuratively speaking, with two vibrant, articulate and imposing poets. So I'm going to start off with my first poem, which is called Tagakrad Tafada Ignadirter. And I wrote this poem after watching a documentary about turtles who, on watching the show, I learned that the turtles are buried under sand and the eggs are buried, and normally turtles would burst through the sand and they would see light on kind of the crests of the ocean and they would move towards that and use that as guidance. But in our modern world, the turtles can't find their way. They're distracted by the lights from the town and the city and everything going on. And I thought this was a very imposing metaphor maybe for the life we live today. So it's a poem kind of about the environment, but also about us and the way we're living. Tagakrad Tafada Ignadirter. Ahníon turtar bléasfog, Dilach dí na mara, bhuile bise, nach saol turtar é seo. Fanann siad le chéile feadh roinnt léithinte, Cura faoi neamh mian, is lucht linge bácha iad. Go nicke fóbrian, bléasc láthair orthú, sáin siad amach a gcuid sroin le teann na ní. Iad é crucha bar crátha, amhail is gur isce fugta é an ganamh. Turtar dochalach, a héilítar tar éis dí aileacha. Turtar gascúil, a héilítar le splancana ó Camrí. A hafada ó bhre, turtar sclavach ag fara orthú, sciobban sé íomhá hábháta díobh. De dhéann siad Portseáil hart. Is am sin siad am mealach. Bí na babí ag leanúnt teoiricha romclá na díolann. Sa dóigh is go bhfuil frithchathamh an talais, ó nealach agus ó na réaltaí, le feiceáil an uisce. Na chéadta turtar thóir na réaltaí. Ach, tá na splancana saoirtha ag tairint ard na dortar, mar sin ní féidir leo marachtáil mur nó fille óhaile. Turtar dalla, go hiomlán dal. Everything is recorded by turtles. Soft-shell sea turtles, orphans of the sea, recognize instantly that this is not a turtle's world. They wait together for several days, buried under fine sand in an affectionate cargo. Until leathery shells have developed, they poke their noses out, shaking all over with such a ferocious worry that the sand boils like kettle water. Sullen turtles, turtles born from an unburying, self-absorbed turtles, turtles born to cameras flashing, filmed from birth by snapper turtles watching closely, snapping virtual images of them scrambling about. Finding their way, these tiny baby turtles, following directions on the crest of the ocean, guided by the reflections of the lights on the water, the moon and the stars, hundreds of turtles chasing stars. but they are blinded, distracted by the artificial lights, and so they cannot survive life at sea or return home. Blind turtles, totally blind. So that was Tagakra Tafada Eg na Dirter. The next poem I'm going to read, I wrote based on a time I spent in Montana. I only started writing poetry Galway-bred, so 2 years ago, hosig me in Monpeen, and when I was doing so, I decided to reflect back on some diaries and notebooks that I had always kept all my life. I had always thought that I was terrible at writing diaries because my notes seemed to be jumbles of random notes and images and brief moments of bliss and brief moments of pain, and it didn't make a lot of sense. Chaotic like my mind, I guess. But when I started writing poetry, I looked back on these with a new eye, I suppose. I saw them as bones of poems. So I plucked out an image that I had written after I had spent the night with someone and who I thought I'd loved and they didn't love me back. So a moment of unrequited love, I guess. And I picked up this image of seeing a dead wasp on the windowsill, and I wrote this poem based on that image. Na cuma sa teach fin géad searc. Fri bhuala probernach, mé ag luthú lastig is cúirt the heart air. Ba iarfacht é dóchas is ragus é. Mar an náil a chomhlíos sinne, má chuidse ar gudne, ein an náil a bhórn, ar mlasanna fé celt. Nuair a chríoch níomar dhéan sé mion gaire óginte, a gcuid sé ó na athair albanach. Is a chur na síalta I gracin a mhóthir, down mar a bheoch piora le trétha cotínsa na Blackfoot. Hop riamar I maclin a céile. Higgis ar gungaracht, sin aig ar aig. Dadvig sé go bhainimar crí celtiise, is go gronóch sé go mór mé. Bhís ag iarraidh go ndearthach sé na focail chéine, agus bhraithis scé bacha I mo chrí. Ach ina ionad sin ar eisean go raibh húiseach, gur fóg sé duine éigin eile, ach nar ceart rud mór a dhéanamh as, mar go mbeadh mé ag filleadh ar éireann go gairid. Ris mé mo lámha uaidh. Mé féin a scara ón rá martratha míchomha sin. Has mé me ceann I dro na fnóige, in am chun an gríon mé an fíocha ag cháil. Bhí sráideanna masúla ag múscailt. Is chonig mé má chéad searc ar leach I nóige, ina iche bharv. First love shouldn't matter much. Pulsing, quickening, pressing myself, in and all around him, it was perfection, desperation, and desire. I could only think of us as breath, mine, his, ours, we were one, our accents buried beneath. When we finished, he smiled at me, a charming boyish smile, stolen from his father's Scottish past. Sown in the soil of his mother's skin, his face was brown as a pear, as his signature of the Blackfoot tribe. I was very aware of our closeness as we lay there entwined, the nearness of his face to mine. He admitted that we shared a Celtic heart, and that he would miss me terribly. With hopes he would tell me he loved me, I felt a cyclone of bees in my heart. Then he said, quite casually, that he had kissed someone else. But it shouldn't matter much because I was heading back to Ireland soon anyway. I unstitched my hands from his, untangled myself from our maimed, misshapen love, and turned my head towards the window, in time to see the morning light yawning, the streets of Missoula rising up, and saw my first romance on the windowsill, a dead wasp. So that was First Love Shouldn't Matter Much. I'm going to caveat that poem with a very short poem that I wrote that is set in Cork. I thought it would be fitting. Just gur éile Circig Isha. This is a Cork festival, and it is a very short poem. And I wrote it very quickly, and I had planned on coming back and adding more to a poem because I thought a poem simply can't be that short. But in the length of the poem, I've said all I need to say, and I think it's something that poets struggle with. Maybe it's something that I struggle with. It's a niggly feeling inside that tells you you need to prove you're a poet in every line. But sometimes the simplest words are the most powerful, and sometimes, while metaphor is beautiful, honesty is just as beautiful in a way. So this poem is called An Aimsir I Gcurcaig. Bí na fillí seasta ag trabha an gcuirt a chéine, I mbeagán focail gcuirt an grá. Ní scríobh mé faoin rá, scríobh mé faoin aimsir. Tá an aimsir go deas I gcurcaig inniu. The weather in Cork. I think quite a prosaic feeling underlies most poets' work. In a word, it is love. I am not going to write about love. I'm going to write about the weather. The weather in Cork is nice today. That poem is a bit of self-depreciation and mocking myself because at the beginning all I wrote was love poetry, and I thought, what else is there to write about? And it's true. Love is the main thing, and it is something that poets return back to time and time again. The next poem and final poem I'm going to read for you today is called Whiskered Sphinx. And it is a bit of a feminist poem about women and body hair and our right to make our own choice on that matter. Sphinx Féisógach. Feróí ascail, an bhfuil agla uiribh, go dtiontóigh sibh in bhór gluc, éalchlacha, do bhfeiceadh sibh me ná le gé go cactus. Bheadh sibh beidir. Is bheimís sin ann sibh a chur in our Sphinx Féisógach, nocht bheimís go mórtasach in Thesmophoria Lamacha. A crothathóir chun spóideach, ná bí I de aircht na seacht geann a d'eirsí lam, nuair a táim ag cabh an taol amhlaí, ina bhfuil grúig a scáile ag mnámh. An mé an céad duine chun fearú nochtacht, nach raibh cairn olt bhod menéis. Félíní nochta, níl ní á dógála gin, ag tairint rásúr thar ar gullen. Ag futhú céir bheach agus cúslach a dhéanamh dian, ag fearra gan smaoinemh na féir mhóra úrúnta le géal cíbhí. Ag tairint caringacha comín le siadta a grim dangan siabata. Roirc an bhéisú le crothú, Sphinx granta ina lí. Tógálatha babal, sin ina bhfuil anin fé láthair, níl mud an ann obair le chéile a thuile ní labhraíomid an teanga céine. Déisteanach, náireach, míthanamhach, focail scriste, tád faoi léinn. Níl muid ag marachtáil go baran tú le huile, drúpas ar bhnámh gach gibné a bhaint comhlua is féidir. Tá ag déanamh cuardach ar athógáil, I ré na díthógála seo, cá bhfuil ar Sphinx Féisógach. Whiskered Sphinx. Armpit gazers, do you fear you will turn to stone, to limestone, upon sighting women with cactus limbs. You might. And we could use you to build our whiskered sphinx and display it proudly in depilated thesmophoria. Spectacle maker, do not make a spectacle of yourself, says she, when I forget to shear my surface, when I am living in my reality, where women have hairs under their arms. Am I the first to feral pubescent skin? Was Mene's dick unshorn? Naked felines, we do not build anything, dragging blades over our bodies, bleeding beeswax, and scouring ourselves, looking thoughtlessly at hefty men with kiwi jaws, carrying smooth-faced rocks on tough-skinned ciabatta backs, to create a reclining sphinx, an admired spectacle. Builders of Babel we have become. We can no longer work together. We do not speak the same language. Disgusting, gross, unattractive, destructive words that make me feel an internal disquiet, that we no longer live authentically, rushing to remove each hair as it sprouts. I'm searching for a reconstruction in this age of deconstruction. Where is our whiskered sphinx? So Sin Uamse Chairde Gur Míle Maith Agaibh. I would just like to say finally that my first ever poetry book came out last week, and I am absolutely chuffed and amazed. I can't believe it's happened. Because seo é an leabhar an taim atá airna at agus Iontach Bheith Beo, which means, as Paul said, how strange and wonderful to be alive, which is more fitting now than ever. And it's available from on Siobhán website if anyone is interested in the Irish language and would like to read some more of my poems. So thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to hearing some more great poets over the course of the weekend.
Gur míle magat Siobhán as an leibh Ireland sin. Thank you so much for that gorgeous reading. Absolutely beautiful. It's great to see you holding the book in your hands. And
Yeah.
we might hear a little bit about that a little bit later in the Q&A section if we're lucky. Okay, so our next guest, I am very pleased to introduce to you in this opening set, is brought to us via our festival partners ARC Publications over in England. Big thanks to Tony Ward and Angela Jarman for their ongoing contributions to our winter warmers over the years. They've helped to make it a very international event indeed. So now I'd love to introduce to you to Karthika Naïr, who is a French-Indian poet originally from Kerala, now living in Paris for a long time. She is a poet, a dance producer, a choreographer and librettist, the principal scriptwriter of several dance productions, and has won multiple awards for those. Her book, her latest book, Until the Lions, Echoes from the Mahabharata, is Karthika's reimagining of the great Indian epic, the Mahabharata, in multiple voices. It won the 2015 Tata Literature Live Award for Fiction and was highly commended in the 2016 Forward Prizes UK. So you're very welcome, Karthika.
Thank you, Paul, for inviting me to the Winter Warmer Poetry Festival to read with Chiamaka and Siobhán. And thank you, Tony and Angela, for remembering me. So thank you, Paul, Angela, Tony, Chiamaka and Siobhán for those beautiful poems. And I will begin. Most of the poems I intend to read are from Until the Lions, which, as you mentioned, Paul, is a reworking of the Mahabharata in 19 different voices, mostly marginal, mostly female, but there are also voices of soldiers and of non-humans. I should, though, just say one little thing, which is that I'm not a choreographer. And most of the other things that you mentioned, but not a choreographer, and I feel I should say that because I have two left feet, and my dancer colleagues and friends will be laughing otherwise. Anyway, so Until the Lions is one of the many, many, many tellings of the South Asian foundational epic, the Mahabharata. And to begin, I will read the narrative backbone of the book, which is Satyavati, the matriarch, who is the mother of Vyasa, officially, traditionally recognized as the author of the Mahabharata. So something like Homer would be of the Iliad and the Odyssey, if you can imagine Homer as a character in the epic. And Satyavati, as we see through the book, positions herself often at a tangent to her son. These are a series of poems called fault lines, and they interleave in the book. Listen, listen, this neither begins nor ends with me, not such a hate cascading down time. Crossing sea and sky and continent, a hate that sails beside friendship, love, fealty, so many skiffs. I could not say where it began, perhaps only the stars can, for beginnings come clothed in mist. There are many who will claim to know, Vyasa foremost, but even saintly bards, especially when sons, don't allow tales to travel unadorned, and so I must uncage the quieter lore, let them wander, rags and slander notwithstanding. There may be rhyme, but not much reason, little meter, but both stress and distress. This is not the whole story, nor a lyrical history of mankind. It is what I know to be mine, true or nearly so, perhaps not at all at times, for truth is a beast more wayward than time. And from that one voice of the narrative backbone, who is a recurrent voice, I'll move to the only other recurrent voices, which are the choral voices who come in the shape of the spouses and the lovers of the soldiers who are about to go to battle. And it's a series of poems called Constancy. I'll read the first and the last of the series. Constancy 1. Before a battle, grow inwards like root and rock, shed eyes, ears, shed words. Let us speak, your skin to mine. Touch alone scores memory. Touch alone will survive time. And then to the last constancy, 6. Before God, before the dead, before children, before the world, dance. Before the sea drowns, before clouds conflagrate, before the phoenix drops, before thorns flower, write. Before you leave, before I lose, before it rives, before they blaze, ravel. Before you leave home, banished to a land named alone, before I lose my voice that will roam spheres seeking yours, before a border arrives language from love, marrow and bone, before words blaze through veins and jagged tongues of fire, ravel wild cursives from a pledge, retrieve its letters, vowels, abjads and all, send them to safety from lip to heart and lung. Before the sea drowns, gills clogged by a rain of blood, before clouds conflagrate, scorch the seasons, rain dark light, before the phoenix drops her song, sealing the casement to dawn, before thorns flower in bronchioles and branches crowd airways. Write it all, little stories, giant histories. A few myths. Tie them to cotton seeds so they fall in distant hands. Etch a copy on memory's palms. Call it the human crease. Before God dies, smile trampled, 1,000 arms crushed underfoot. Before the dead return like moonlight, trading white ash and regrets. Before children swap marbles for slugs and swallow darkness at meals. Before the world of straight lines and ironclad right owns your eyes. Dance. Dance on vanishing shores between night and half-light. Return. Return to nest like stacked spoons, lock chest with spine. Twine hip and thigh, knit 10 fingers, pearl the lips. Once more before the battle. And now over to the voice of the soldiers to whom these women were singing, to whom they were imploring. It's a poem. It's actually the poem that ends the book. It's in the voice of the Padati, the foot soldiers. And this particular Padati is actually responding to his father, another soldier, a low caste father, who had, in the beginning of the book, implored his son to join the war as a way of transcending his position, of transcending his birth, of escaping the cycle of a low caste existence to which they're all condemned. It's called Iontach, Beneath the Music. There is no Kurukshetra, father, no stair, no skyway to heaven, no winged chariots for warriors, no heaven either. No gentle north, father, no west, nor east exists. No south lined by Khandava, lush Khandava, raised of blade and beast an eon ago, with Arjuna's bow stringed in royal greed. No centre, father, no silken periphery with maiden rivers that ringed a sacred strand, sculpted by the hand of Shiva. No Shiva, father. No devas even, just endless oceans of flesh. The sky, a maw spewing lava and pitch, juddering, drowning, earth below, a broken collarbone of moon above. And eyes, eyes, eyes everywhere. Thousands riven, stricken, lost and smashed and open, blind and bloodless eyes. Father, that need no ballads nor bards to multiply. Eyes that offer no more redress, crushed pearls on the chaplet of wise men's lies. Eyes that swear I will soon be one of their kind. Eyes that meld into rubble and mulch while trust dies. Trust and hope and fraternity, wretched shards of humanity, all dead, father, seeking that battlefield where war was sacrament, where no chieftains charged soldiers with winged astras, and no kings shattered minds and lungs with toxins. Bhishma, father, the first to break his own Vajra bond, swiftly consigned the rules of Dharma Yuddha to myth and flame and congeal the breath. Tens of thousands, mounts, musicians, messengers, men. Vaishya, Shudra, Mahar, Shanar, Kshatriya. When it came to carnage, he repealed caste and station, quaffed them all, though the lowest were dispersed, foremost, of course, to Yama's land, followed by the 8 virtues. Yes, Satya, Daya, Dan, Suchi, Kshama, and more, all submersed. This time by Yudhishthira, the father, it is true, even the noblest of kings do sin. I saw the great Pandava skive a Sarathi in his seat and slash his horses. A fit of sullen rage, when he could not rout the man's master. Late now, too late, father, much too late, to retreat, protest, berate. This was never my battle, and I will die for others' vows and dreams, for yet another potentate. And so do a few 100,000 men, chests ablaze, a naive, untimely, unremembered boon of Ashoka flowers. To die forgotten is to die twice, oblivion the final demise. We won't survive, no meridians, no memorials, just distance and the dead to sever, then swallow the horizon, gorge the sun. It won't be long now, Father, before daylight leaves my eyes. I hear night whisper, travelling northward from the chest, what she thinks a lullaby, travelling through spine, sinew, and nerve, into lung and tongue and skin. Sludge covers my eyes, Father, or is it the hue of a chagrined sky? Soon there'll be no variance between soil and skin. Both throng me like a shroud, though my flesh scowls and the soil stings with cold. Memory seeps through torn veins. I begin to unbelong. From the self, from you, from the men who were mine, like kin. I used to know, Father, used to know all my peers, their voices, their names. Shibi there, the eye of a javelin caught his, smote him, burst the iris, spurting dark blood on eager earth. I used to know his name too, the one fallen beside me, an arm crushed to unwilled clay, both legs further rolled, further away, dragged beneath his general's chariot wheels. A blear in claret, the arc of betrayal on hard ground, and him there with an arrow twined through the ribcage next to the heart, as near, nearer than a lover's beat. Satya, Jaya, Jiva, the names collide, names and bones and functions. Padati, Sarati, Sainik, Rati. Remember them for me, Father. The dead all look the same. No tones, no pride, no trails, no traits, no whims, no gait to call our own. Save this one where, for we cannot clamour till we are claimed. The names remain our soul archives. Burn our spears, our lances, our shields, but swear you will chant the names of the faceless dead like a prayer, Father, and await the day when you no more need righteous warfare, nor heroes, no deadly belief, no divine stairs, no hereafter, no Kurukshetra either. The last poem now, which is in the voice of a handmaiden called Sawali, made to Gandhari, King Dhritarashtra's wife. The poem is called Bedtime Story for a Dasi's Son. Sawali, the handmaiden, is raped by the king when his wife is pregnant because he wants a son at all costs. This is her account. It's the second movement. When the king decides to take you, the eyes arrive first. Not his own, for he is blind. No, an unkindness of eyes, male and female and other, raptors that circle you, weighing, watching, weighing, measuring, probing and prying. An unkindness of eyes, each set different, yet so similar they could all be the same. Eyes that seem to have no tongues, no torsos either, though you will feel their beaks inside your head for the rest of your days, pecking your words, gnawing on your thoughts, spitting out syllables, stretching vowels, screeching and cooing in turn, praising and threatening. It is an honor, they crow, that you must strive to deserve. An honor we are so grateful to be spared. A great honor you must not avoid. You know this already. In all the years you have tried to remain unseen, tried to stay unbodied even when present. For how could you forget your neighbour, the maid who fled, the maid who reached the river, dived in and nearly crossed its waters when soldiers harpooned her through the neck, hauled her back, slit her open like a common carp, nose to belly, and left her innards by the bank? For you were taught the tale of your great aunt, chosen by another monarch many moons back. Your great aunt who managed to vanish, but returned when they fed her husband and her firstborn to a bonfire, feet first, and fed the remains, 2 tiny hands, a thigh bone, charred bowels, to red ants. An honor you cannot refuse, they caw, as though you don't know that. When the king decides to take you, there is nowhere to run. The land is his, the rivers are his. The sky too, the birds dwelling there bemoan. When the king decides to take you, there is nowhere to hide, with earth and heaven and hell his turf. When the king decides to take you, no one comes to the rescue. The gods are his, myth and legend too his own. When the king decides to take you, there is much pomp to mark the beginning, though not the end. This time, the day and hour must be right, for he must have a child, not just slake his lust. He has waited 2 years for his pregnant wife to give birth, and he can wait no more. He must have a child, a son, before his brother becomes a father. It is a single goal in his sightless eyes. And so, even a son by a dasi will do. He cannot, this time, grab and ravish you on any given day or night, like nameless, faceless others were ravished in the past. This time, he must be sure his seed is planted right, warn the priests. When the king decides to take you, the contours of your life dissolve. You move within a cage of eyes, the unkindness of eyes that define every action, surround you from daybreak to daybreak, then plunder to cleansing to respite to plunder again. Your deflowering, too, is a public act. The bedchamber is not naked, nor is the king. Only you are. Your deflowering, accompanied by priestly chanting and conch shells, unfolds in 3 long acts of lunge, grind, rip. The lunge of a Himalayan thing that blots out the night, ferrous hands and knees that unhinge limbs, prying open arms and thighs, no flesh or thought, all metal and sweat and rush. The grind of chest against belly, the grind of sea bags on sepals, the grinding of a back into gravel against silken sheets that singe skin and memory. Rip the fine robes you were made to wear, rip the fragrance of young lips, rip softness from both breasts, rip the muslin of a heart hidden between 2 hips, its walls fluid and dark and furious. Darkness bellows and overflows till you feel no more. But you wake all too soon. And when you wake, the king has recommenced. So have the prayers. At first you know no anger, no fear, only pain that permeates from skin to marrow. Your spine is bent, bone after bone, with the weight of a tungsten sky. Your breasts have aged, the nipples turned to rust. Mouth and tongue have swelled into rubble and dust. Your back and neck bear the hieroglyphics of talons, deep and live and rubescent, the kingdom's untold history. Your belly is a molten screaming pit that cannot be hushed. When the king decides to rape you, no one will use the word rape. The word does not exist in the king's world. Your body is just another province he owns, from navel to nipple to eyelid, insole to clitoris. When the king decides to take you, there is nowhere to run. The land is his, the rivers are his, the sky too, the birds dwelling there bemoan. When the king decides to take you, there is nowhere to hide, with earth and heaven and hell his turf. When the king decides to take you, no one comes to the rescue. The gods are his, myth and legend too, his own. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karthika. Thank you very much. It was a very, very powerful reading indeed. I really enjoyed listening to that. Wow, I'm hoping you're going to be able to speak a little bit about it. I have a couple of questions for you both. We seem to have lost Chiamaka at the moment, though she may be back with us. I hope she is. It looks like she is still connected, but she might be having some technical difficulties on her side. But if she does come back, we will bring her straight in. So once again, thank you so much. Oh, here she is. Oh, fantastic. That's great. We have a full house. That is brilliant. Let me just add Chiamaka's audio, and we're all ready to go. Okay, great. Thank you all so much for just a brilliant opening to this Winter Warmer Festival. Wow, such a variety of very powerful words, and I'm going to have to listen back to these videos to appreciate them properly, because my head's a bit in the technical game at the moment. But I do have a couple of questions that I would love to hear your thoughts on, just one at a time if possible. The first question, I wanted to avoid the dreaded C word, but I think that as writers, it's been affecting all of us, and I'd really like to know. I'd like to hear from you. With life in lockdown, how has COVID affected your writing practice? So maybe first, Chiamaka, would you like to say something about that?
So we're 9 months in at this point. 8 or 9 months in. Just had to count the months there on my fingers. I think I'm very lucky. I'm very sort of privileged in my position. In terms of the fact that I can sort of carry on with my work, and most of my life translates really well online. I can do most of my work. So in terms of just like making a living and being able to still have a home and still have food to eat, so I'm really grateful for that. I sort of try and focus on those aspects of things, and I know so many people whose livelihoods have been decimated by the virus, and who've lost loved ones and lost their own lives. And so yeah, I have my health, and I have my job, and I have my partner and my sister with me as well. And so we keep each other company, and we try and keep each other's spirits lifted, and we sort of have made space for ourselves. How we have our little corners, the little work corners, so we don't butt heads too much on a daily basis in our small apartment. Yeah, at first it was quite difficult. Isolation is, a form of punishment in most parts of the world, solitary confinement, and so no one's gonna cope well with that, at first. But I'm just happy that my family are well, and I try and sort of keep a smile on my face, and I'm able to write. My schedule is, I finally got a hang of it, and I'm able to sort of now look beyond, the dreaded C word, and try and focus on other themes and topics and experiences. And I've also recently started writing fiction as well, so that sort of becomes a challenge for me that I can focus on, that keeps my mind off of the pandemic. So that's where I'm at.
Brilliant, thank you, Chiamaka. That's a great answer, actually. Siobhán, maybe you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, my answer is kind of going to be random, I'd say, but I started off the pandemic in March. I was working in a law firm up in Dublin, and I was training to be a solicitor and on that path. And when the pandemic hit, it kind of hit home even more that I was on the wrong path. And I knew I always loved writing and was interested in Irish, but I decided to keep pursuing the law because I thought it was what was expected of me, you know. But so I decided to move back home. So I'm living back in Kerry, and I'm studying to be a teacher now in Galway. It's all online, so I'm studying to be an English and an Irish teacher. And recently I've started on my placement in a school in Dingle, which is an all-Irish school, and I absolutely adore teaching English and Irish to the kids. It's really like enlightened me in a way that I never experienced in a law firm. So I guess for me, COVID has pushed me to realise what actually matters to me and what I'm passionate about. It's made me realise we only have one life, and you might as well go after what you want, and there's no such thing as an expected path. And like, I was afraid people were going to say, oh my god, you've left law, why are you doing that? But everyone was really supportive, and in fact they thought, oh, we always expected you to be a teacher or a writer, and I have more time to write now, obviously. So I'm living at home in Kerry with my parents, and they're both frontline workers, so experiencing it all. My dad's paramedic and my mom's a nurse. And it is nice to be at home at the moment, and I have a lot more time to write, so that's a really good bonus. And obviously it's very tough, and I'm finding it hard not to see friends and all of that. Most of my friends are in different parts of the world or in different counties to me at the moment. So hopefully when all this lifts, I'll be able to see more people and get more inspiration. But in terms of, this probably sounds mad to say, but COVID, in terms of writing about COVID and stuff, I haven't been drawn yet to write about it. I don't know why. I've written one poem which was kind of more of a lament for festivals, if anything. It wasn't particularly focused on COVID exactly, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because we're so saturated in it at the moment. All I'm looking for is escape, as opposed to looking to deep more into COVID and write and read more about it. I would be interested to see the work that comes out of it, though, but I'll have to pen to paper myself eventually.
That's great. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Maybe Karthika?
A lot of things, some contradictory. First of all, a lot of gratitude because, like Chiamaka said, I'm also very fortunate. First of all, to be where I am, as someone who works in performing arts, our sector has been just crippled it's just despite state support, despite all the benefits we have, so many people are going to fall through the cracks. I've had 3 productions which I scripted, which were supposed to premiere this year, which couldn't, and we don't know when they will. But on a personal level, I've just been so fortunate. I've been immunodeficient all through the year, and I've never had so much support and presence and attention and love from colleagues and friends who pretty much run my life for me all year, because there were so many things which became very risky, going to a shop or even to the pharmacy, and people have been just wonderful. On the other, the flip side, I haven't been in a rehearsal studio since February, and the practice, just being there, watching movement, dance, people touching the nitty-gritty of it, it's just a huge absence. And I wept through the 58 minutes of the first performance I went to see in September in that narrow window we had between 2 lockdowns. As for writing, the wonderful Marilyn Hacker invited me to write Renga with her at the beginning of the lockdown in France, which was March. So we've been writing to each other across now 9 months, 10 months. So funnily enough, there's been a certain discipline to the writing which, left to myself, I think I wouldn't have had.
That's great. Thank you. That is very interesting. Thank you very much, Karthika. Just one more question for each of you. Just briefly, you might speak about how the idea for your latest poem or collection or sequence or piece of writing came about. Or book, indeed, your latest book.
I suppose in terms of the two poems that I read from Writing Home, the anthology of new Irish poets, which I co-edited with Pat Boran. I suppose that collection or that anthology came to fruition by collaborative effort between I and Pat, but also hundreds of submissions from amazing writers, migrant writers, that's like immigrants and immigrants across the world. Some live in Ireland, some live in elsewhere, who trusted us with their work. And we were able to sort of shape this book of 50 poets, some of whom were writing in English for the very first time, and so that's a very intimate practice in terms of editing someone's work, them trusting you with that work that might be very new to them as well, and so yourself almost like handling a newborn baby and the care taken around that. And I suppose it was for me the first time that I was both writing and editing in the same project. So I had to put both hats on and so take one off and swap over the period of about 9 months. And the book was shaped around a theme of home, what home means in terms of personal aspect of people's familiar lives, intimate lives, but also what home means in terms of nationhood and immigration and migration, and that's a political idea or issue as well, in terms of asylum seeking, and as we know, the horrible reality of direct provision in Ireland, and so we had some poets who had also been through that system as well. So it was a very interesting process putting those things together, and also writing my own poems as well for the anthology. So the two poems that I read are When and actually 3 poems, When, Where, and How. They're sort of shaped around the quotes that I read from the poets Naguib Mahfouz. Home is not where you were born, home is where all your attempts to escape cease. And so I was sort of playing with that idea of a sort of reconciliation with the unsettledness or the resistance to embrace a new culture or a new place and its people and identity.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so it pretty much was looking at reconciliation, and I think at the end there, the poem does come to some reconciliation with identity.
Okay, thank you very much, Chiamaka. Thank you so much. Siobhán?
Yeah, I suppose I'll talk about my new book. It's probably the best thing to talk about. Yeah. So Coisceim, the amazing Irish language company, recently published the first collection of Irish language poems, which is called agus Iontach Bheith Beo. And the collection, I suppose, came about, first of all, 2 years ago. I was doing a master's in UCC in European law and the Irish language. And when I was in that course, UCC just started a new module called Creative Writing on Cúirt Festival with Albany Garvig, this wonderful Irish language poet. And it wasn't part of my module while I was studying a master's in Irish language. It was also in European law, so I was meant to be doing French as a module. But I asked my lecturer if I could swap from French to creative writing, and it was the best decision I ever made, because in that course I started writing poetry, which I hadn't done since I was very young, and I had an actual poet telling me, you should keep going and progress this. And sometimes, although you know within you that you have the ability, it takes someone to give you that extra push, to give you that self-belief. So for that module, one of the tasks was to write a short collection of, you could write a drama, you could write a collection of poetry, or a significant short story, and I decided to write a collection of poetry. So I wrote about 12 poems, and that is some of the poems that exist in this book. And I ended up entering those poems in Listowel Writers Week and winning, which was incredible, and that gave me another push again. So I wrote some more and added to it, and ended up sending it to Coisceim. Pádraig Ó Snodaigh, the editor, decided that he would like to publish them, which was incredible. And it was a really interesting process working with Pádraig Ó Snodaigh on this collection. It's really old school. You literally print off your poems and post them off to Pádraig, and he posts them back to you with little added in notes in his lovely Irish language handwriting. And it was just really thrilling for that to be the process. It felt so, organic and authentic, and very traditional Irish, I suppose. And yeah, it's finally together. The title came from an article that I read written by Billy Jenkinson, who is an incredible Irish language poet. I'm not sure if any of you know her, but she is a formidable woman. She is not allowed any of her poetry to be published in English in Ireland, actually, because she believes that while translation is, an important act to enable access, there's things that can be lost in translation, and in Ireland we think everything in Irish can be translated to English and nothing lost, and it's possibly wrong of us to assume that. So Iontach Bheith Beo means how strange and wonderful to be alive, and it's just a phrase that stood out to me. I think one of my favourite quotes ever. It's a very basic bitch quote, pardon my French to say, but it's from The Great Gatsby. And it's the quote where it says, "I was within and without, simultaneously enchanted and repelled by the inexhaustible variety of life." And being both enchanted and repelled by life is what fascinates me, I guess. And writing poetry, it's an engagement with language, but also an engagement with life, which is both weird and strange and also wonderful. So this collection has poems about absolutely everything, which is why I thought it was a fitting title, also about love, about friendship, about the environment, about many different topics. So yeah, it was a very interesting process to write this book, and I'm delighted that it's out in the world.
That's great. Thank you so much, Siobhán. Karthika?
Well, there's the stage part of it, and there's the purely written part of it. But from the stage side, I was scripting when the lockdown happened. I was scripting a dance production, an adaptation of one of the Chinese foundational legends, one of the Chinese classical legends, Liangzhu, the legend of the butterfly lovers. So we haven't been able to go into rehearsal, but the director, producer, and I have been working on, the technical breakdown to the script and so on. So we've been continuing with that, even though we can't actually see it embodied. That's the big gap. As far as the writing goes, like I mentioned, so there's the ongoing Venga series with the wonderful American poet Madame Hacker, who lives in Paris as well, and all the contradictions of the fact that we live a few miles away from each other, but we cannot meet with the lockdown, and the microcosms are so different between how the lockdown kind of unfolds in my neighborhood as opposed to hers. And then there's the intersection of all the horrific and sometimes hopeful things that we're seeing in the world around us and the world far away from us as well. So it's a kind of intersection of the very everyday realities of a lockdown, of what that does to the larger sociopolitical fabric of our societies, and just breathing through every day.
Super. Thank you so much, Karthika, and thank you all three of you for your superb readings tonight. I'm really thrilled you could join us for this first digital festival, and I wish you the very best with your writing, as in life, moving forward. Gurb Mila Magrib Galer. I must say thanks to our online viewers as well, including on our Facebook and YouTube channels. If you like this reading, we've plenty more in store over the next 4 days, and the festival is all free. So if you can spare a few pennies for our festival donation jar, it's right above our main festival stage area at ovale.ie, Winter Warmer. So again, thank you very much, and good night.